In this section, part C, we'll be looking at reflections along the x-axis and along the y-axis. Let's begin by looking at reflections along the x-axis. Suppose we're given this red function f of x here, and we want to reflect this function across the x-axis. To do this algebraically, what we need to do is we need to change all the signs of our y values. And what that means is that our function g of x in this case is going to have to be equal to a negative f of x here. Now, let's go ahead and turn our attention to reflecting across the y-axis. Again, let me just go ahead and draw a function, a red function. We'll call this f of x. And reflecting a function along the y-axis is going to require a little more work, but geometrically as a picture, it still looks very simple. We're just going to mirror the function along like this. Algebraically, let's notice the following. On the domain from 0 to infinity, we have that f of x is going to be equal to g of x for all x in the domain of g of x from negative infinity to 0. So algebraically, what this is saying is that g of x is going to be equal to f of negative x on the interval negative infinity to 0. And what you can notice is that this is actually going to hold for the entire interval here. And with this, let's go ahead and summarize how to reflect along the x and y axis. So we'll begin with reflections along the x-axis. The graph of the function negative f of x is obtained by reflecting the function f of x along the x-axis. And in the same vein, to reflect the function along the y-axis, we're just going to do the following. Given y is equal to f of negative x, this is going to be obtained by reflecting the graph of the function y is equal to f of x along the y-axis. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at another example. Let's sketch the following graph by applying the transformation to the standard function. So this is going to be very similar to the very first problem. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and peel the given function to the standard function, and then we're just going to apply the transformations step by step. So let's go ahead and determine the standard functions real fast by removing the transformations. So we start off with y is equal to negative square root of negative x. Well, let's go ahead and get rid of the horizontal reflection, or the reflection across the x-axis. And let's go ahead and get rid of the vertical reflection, which is going to be the reflection across the y-axis. And now what we can do is we can go ahead and just sketch each graph step by step. So we'll start with this standard function here, then we'll apply the reflection across the y-axis, and finally we'll apply the reflection across the x-axis here. So I'll just draw this on one page So number 1, again, we're going to have the graph of the square root of x. It's going to look something like this. And for number 2, we're reflecting this graph across the y-axis. So this is going to look something like this. And then finally, in step number 3, we're going to be reflecting our graph across the x-axis. And we're left with something like this.